For this, we go to Kennesaw State University. Doc, thanks for dropping by this morning.
Oh, thank you for having me, John. Great to be with you this morning.
When now I know I was trying for I was the devil. I was trying to find out what your playing history was, and I know that did you play intramurals at Guelph when you were a Griffin, or did that stop when you got to Guelph and did your undergrad?
Yeah, I stopped at Guelph, before Guelph actually, but I played high school soccer from as far back as I can remember, going back to, I'm thinking, 1978 World Cup.
Oh wow.
That's what got me inspired. It's a great World Cup, and we all wanted to be like little Peles, but also, yeah. So I grew up wanting to be the next Pele, and I was greatly inspired by the great Argentina, Kempes. So that was in 1978. So I made my high school soccer team. So throughout high school, I was a goalkeeper.
Oh,
Was a goalkeeper.
so
Yeah.
much like every other keeper that I know, you want to be Pele or Kempesh. I see how this
Yes.
works.
I know. So later on, after I realized I was not really great on the field compared to my peers, I moved into the goal and wanted to be Garden Banks. So Garden Banks was the greatest keeper that helped England won their first World Cup in 1966. So yes, so I
Mm.
gave up my dreams of becoming Pele and turned into the best version of Gordon Banks.
So when you got your all of your degrees and all of your recognitions, and honestly, you've got to use. I think you've got to use the backside of the business card and another business card with all of the things that you have pursued in your time. When you found out that a World Cup was coming to this hemisphere and that Atlanta was going to be one of the host cities, what was your initial response other than, yeah, I'm not surprised?
Yeah, I was super excited because it gave us in Atlanta an opportunity to showcase our city to the world on the world's largest stage. The World Cup is the largest event globally. Every corner of the world during the World Cup, everyone stops. Everyone stops to watch the games. And you might not have a national team in the competition, but you do have a team that you're following, or you're following a player from the one of the major leagues in Europe or here in the United States. So I was very excited because it gave us a chance to unleash our amazing event ecosystem. In my opinion, we have the best event ecosystem in the world, and the World Cup gave us a chance to unleash it and showcase it to the world.
You mentioned event ecosystems, and that's a great way to kind of just break down everything that is what we don't see.
Yes.
Because you see all the stuff above the waterline, you see all of the prep, you see fan fests and bunting and all of the preparation. And we've had discussions with folks from SCAD because they were the ones responsible from the walking mile about all of the signage and everything that leads everyone to venues and all this kind of stuff. But I think that from your perspective in dealing with hospitality management, you're talking about part of the infrastructure that is vital. I think that we take for granted a lot of the time, because if we didn't have a roof over our head in a room that is probably 40 by 40 that had basic amenities, then as a host city you'd be kind of out of luck. I mean, when it came to your initial analysis, how much of an impact were you thinking was going to be had here for hospitality and all the work that needed to be done to make sure that it was going to look as seamless as possible?
Yes, thanks, John. So, because we have done it so well for a lot of mega events, it's one of the reasons why everything was so seamless
Hmm.
for us. All the hotels executed quite well. The restaurants were prepared. The staff were extremely prepared. Our security forces, because we have had so many events in the city, they knew all the traffic patterns. So there was no chaos on the part of the planners. For attendees, it was very seamless because we had all those things in place. We had tremendous practice. So let's start off from we have the best international airport, right? So it starts from how visitors are going to come to us, right? International visitors, the best airport. We have the hotels that are ready and used to the ebb and flow of visitors coming in for events. The restaurants were also ready. And importantly, our security forces, they knew the travel patterns. So there was no bottlenecks at all in the city. Everything just moved on very seamlessly.
How many conversations are we having here to make sure that, and how many different aspects? Because you dropped 5 of them on me.
Yes.
Airport, hotel, restaurant, security, and transportation. This seems like is there any part of this that we forgot about that makes all of this look as seamless as possible outside of those 5? I mean, or is it that the big 5 for you?
Those are the big 5. But also, let's not forget the volunteer groups, universities, for example, social organizations that step up to help plan and execute this event. So we had a lot of volunteers, but also all of the major bodies that manages hospitality and tourism in the city work in synchrony to make this happen. Cobb Travel, Atlanta Convention and Visitors Bureau, the Airport Authority. We all worked in concert to make this happen. So we were like little elves behind the scene. All of the players were working behind the scenes to make this happen. And John, this is years of planning. This is years of planning. This is more time than we usually get to execute most of the mega events that we have held here in Atlanta. So so everything was ready for the event. So I was very excited when we became one of the host cities for this global event.
Any clue how much investment was made from an infrastructure perspective? Whether, I mean, and you can take it from the big 5 if you've got a number, or if you break it down from any of those, and how cities were investing in the big 5 across the board from the 16 host cities. Any clue about how much investment there was to make sure everything looked great from an eye candy perspective and an infrastructure perspective? Any ideas?
Yeah, so the numbers are still being audited, so it would not be appropriate for me to just throw the numbers out.
Oh, come
right?
on.
Yes, yes, yes. I don't want to misquote any of these numbers, right? However, from the local level all the way up to the state level,
Yeah.
tremendous investments were made in our infrastructure to make sure the infrastructure was ready. Individually, from the corporate side as well, all the hotels invested in terms of refreshing their rooms, making sure things were in place, making sure things were ready for our visitors that came to visit Atlanta. But several $1 million were spent locally at the local government, all the way up to the state level as well. We made tremendous investments.
And obviously, you're hoping to recoup that with folks coming in and visiting for however long they're going to visit. Because, if a hotel is sitting there and they're trying to, make things all shiny and new all over again, all of that infrastructure that they're looking for. And this is literally how many hotels? Any clue how many hotels we have here in the metropolitan Atlanta area?
Yeah, we have about 140, 140,000 rooms in the city. So approximately.
So 140, around 140,000 rooms
Yes.
to service individuals over a 7-week period. And you're hoping that you're going to have some kind of turnover in addition to long-term viewership opportunities and all this kind of stuff. When you have 140,000 rooms, do you know how that compares to other host cities and availabilities and all that kind of stuff? Because then you're getting into like suburbs and exurbs and trying to make sure that, okay, if we stay an hour away, we can still get to our venue, or 90 minutes away, we can still get to our venue. I mean, how that 140 is there, and then how does it drift out and I guess expand? How does the mushroom expand from there? Any clue?
Yeah, absolutely. So the mushroom expands to over, if you were to look at Airbnb, etc., non-traditional,
Yeah.
overnight accommodations, we can go up to 200,000 with the suburbs, etc., or more. But we were able to achieve approximately 80% occupancy.
That was my next question.
Yep, 80% occupancy, which was a bit down. So that was down about 4% from last year.
Mm-hmm.
So citywide, we achieved 80% occupancy, but our revenues were higher. Our revenues were higher. So our revenues, we charge more money, right? So
That's what I'm saying. Yeah,
we
man.
charge more money. So this was great. While occupancy was down by 4.7%,
Mm-hmm.
revenues were up 11%. So
Okay.
we charge more. So, yes, we do need occupancy, but at the end of the day, John, we take money to the bank, right?
Yes.
So a higher percentage occupancy means, you had less rooms to clean, which means your operational expenses are going to be a little bit lower, and ultimately, you're going to take more money to the bank, and
When,
that's what hotels were hoping for.
yeah, and when it comes to the other host cities, have you and your friends in other host cities been able to compare notes about the World Cup? And it's like, well, yeah, we were down 4.7% in occupancy, but we were up 11% in revenue. Do you guys get your own Zoom calls and sit there and compare notes when it comes to the other host cities?
Yeah, I was able to talk to a couple of my colleagues in Toronto, in
Mhm.
Canada,
Mhm.
and they did extremely well in terms of both occupancy and average daily rate. So they surpassed all the goals that they set for themselves. I didn't get any information on Mexico, but I know the other host cities here in the United States, they did extremely well. They achieved their goals in terms of revenue per available rooms. So the World Cup itself brought in a lot of revenues for hotels.
What about the exchange rate? Since you mentioned Toronto, I mean, I know that not everybody can stay at Skydome or sit there and be on King Street and make it an easy walk down to the waterfront to go see what's going on at BMO. Although, if you looked at the fans that were there in Toronto, they didn't really care. They're going to
Yes.
go. They're going to go. They're going to go from Yonge and Bloor, and they're going to go all the way down to the lakeshore and not really think about it twice. They're just going to march and have fun. Did the exchange rate and any other taxes that might have been added because of governmental headbutting one way or the other, did that impact revenue north of the border? Any idea?
Not at all. It didn't affect it in a negative way.
Huh.
Because Toronto has the suburbs of Mississauga, all of those spillover
Yeah,
cities.
you get to
So
go hang out by the airport in Pearson, man. I've done that a lot.
absolutely. And as you know, they have a well-developed public transportation system.
Mhm.
So you can stay in Mississauga, you can stay in the East End in Pickering, and then you can take the Toronto TTC, Toronto Transport System,
Mhm.
right down to the games.
Tourism. I wanted to break that down a little bit. I know that what you're looking for in a perfect world, if you're a host city, is for folks to come in, not come in for just a match. You want them to come in for the match, come in a couple days early. If you're following your club, make sure that you might stay a couple days late. Any idea how tourism was impacted positively? Even line how tourism numbers came out.
Yeah, so we the numbers, we're still trying to audit the what we call unique visitor count,
Mm-hmm.
which are people coming specifically for and staying for the games,
Right.
right?
Yeah.
So we're still looking at that. But in terms of we have some actual numbers that we can share, right? So in terms of confirmed and defensible numbers, we had 544,000 stadium admissions, right?
Right.
And over 500,000 fan festivals, right? So one of the things that we found was that there were a lot of folks who were just moving around from city to city by car.
Huh.
So by car, and so the midday games, for example, the midday games, people would come in for those games, and then they would move back to where their team was perhaps going to play again. So we had a very mobile visitor base for the World Cup. So unfortunately, some folks were thinking, we're going to host 8 games. People are going to come to Atlanta. They're going to stay for the entire World Cup period. That's not how it works for the World Cup. And I think we're still hanging on to the 1996 Olympics
Mm-hmm.
in terms of that impact. But what we need to understand is that the Olympics was a concentrated event, right?
Yeah.
All of the events were in Atlanta. With this one, it was all over North America. So people were very mobile. People were mobile. People were driving. People were flying in, flying out, coming in for their games. And especially the midday games, people were just coming in and then leaving. So we didn't have a lot of long-term stay visitors,
Hmm.
very short term.
So when it comes to the World Cup in host cities, it almost seems like with retention, I guess that's the right word when it comes to, tourism retention and folks staying for longer days, it almost seems like it was along the lines of like a Super Bowl or a World Series or something like that, where you're there for whatever game you're attached to, and you're going to kind of drift out to where you were and then come back in. It's not something that's like a World Series. If you're staying for like 2 games or 3 games, if your team is there for X number of days, it like literally is, I'm going to my Atlanta Falcons game on the weekend, or I'm going to my college football game on the weekend, and then I'm going back to where I came from. Is that an accurate comparison?
That is absolutely correct. Absolutely correct. And I think one of the misconception with some of the planners, they thought people were going to come in for the entire period, stay for the entire period. So we can learn from it, right? If we have this mega event again, what we perhaps need to do is create a lot more packages where visitors can experience, for example, Georgia as a whole. So we need to create these packages, engage local vendors as well to be part of these packages, so that we can showcase our cities, our city in all its aspects. The back streets of Atlanta, where you go and find some unique culinary experience, right? And package it with, let's say, a visit over to Stone Mountain, right? So we need to do something more of selling Atlanta as a destination, as opposed to just the games themselves and hotel accommodation. That perhaps could entice more economic impact in our economy.
What other lessons are there on the table? Obviously, you mentioned bringing somebody in under the tent and keeping them here and giving them
Yes.
reasons to do that. What other lessons do you think were brought from the World Cup from a hospitality, entertainment, tourism standpoint?
Yeah, we need to have a more agile workforce, just in time
Hmm.
workforce, as opposed to hiring folks. We're taking you on for the next 2 weeks for the World Cup,
Right.
right? So we need to have a more agile workforce, work a lot more with contractors
Hmm.
who provide these what I like to call just-in-time labor force,
Right.
so that you're not saddled with employees on your payroll for 2 weeks, and
Right.
then you have that lull, when people are not here to require the services.
And
So
dealing with all that paperwork and filling out all the taxes for 1099ers for
absolutely,
every individual that wanders into the door. I know how this plays.
absolutely.
When it comes to finding out all these other numbers that you're looking for, I know they're kind of trickling in. When do you think? When do I get my big PDF from you about all the final lessons, whether it's dollars, economic, profit and loss? When do I get my big PDF from you?
We should have that ready for you by end of August. We work very fast. We work very fast. So we have the forecast, and then we look at actual numbers after. But we do have some that we can share, as I mentioned earlier. Stadium visitation. Marta, I don't think we give Marta a lot of credit.
Oh boy.
We really should give Marta some credit here, including myself, right? Marta moved 4.7 million people during the World Cup.
Mm-hmm.
That's massive.
Mm-hmm.
That's massive. So again, John, all of our supported infrastructure, I'm so happy, you can see me smiling. They all work in synchrony, in a very symbiotic relationship to execute this mega event.
And when a city has done it a lot of times,
Yes,
it's like you're ready to go. You know what you're getting into,
yes.
and you're not really surprised by anything. You're ready for anything. You're not surprised by it, and you got to see what happened here in Atlanta, in the Atlanta area, as one of the host cities. So, what do you think about the final? By the way, Spain and Argentina. What do you think?
I like to think. Well, first, I'm biased. I wanted an England
Oh,
France final.
okay.
However,
You got that?
however,
Woo.
there I like to say KC is the reason why Spain won.
Mm-hmm.
They used our stadium as their practice facility. So hey, nothing beats preparation, right? If
Yeah.
they had a lousy preparation, they would not have won. So I'd like to, as a KSU employee, I'd like to take credit for Spain winning.
Well, and so will the
We're,
city.
we prepare them well, and they're here in Atlanta, so they were well prepared, and hence they won the World Cup. So hats off to Spain for sure.
No doubt about it, and especially, and the city of Chattanooga is going to sit there since they've adopted Spain anyway.
Yes,
as their home up at the Baylor School. As our resident sweeper keeper professor,
yes,
doctor.
Yes.
Dr. Jackson, it's great to have you on to kind of break everything down. And when you do have those final numbers, go ahead and fire them off to me, and we'll have you back to break that stuff all down after Labor Day and let everybody know the real numbers game that happened here. It's great to see you, my friend. Thanks for
likewise. Likewise.
Do not be a stranger. We'll catch up with you soon. Hootie hoo.